So today I'm going to sketch these two functions. I've put timestamps below if you only want to see how I sketch one of these. So let's begin. So the first one is y is equal to 4 divided by minus 3x minus 8. So you can see here that m is equal to 4 divided by minus 3. So m is less than 0. So we know that the function will have a negative gradient. We can also see here that c is equal to minus 8. So c is less than 0. So we know that this linear function will cut the y-axis where y is negative at the bottom. So for this method, I explained the method in the previous video. So this is just some extra examples. So we need 1 point and we need m. So the easiest point is 0, c. So that's equal to 0 minus 8. And we need m. And m is equal to 4 divided by minus 3. So you remember m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. That's the gradient of the linear function, is the value of m. So you can see here it's also equal to the rise over the run. So we have our point and m. So here you can see the change in y is equal to 4 and the change in x is equal to minus 3. So I'm going to do this example 2 ways and the second example also 2 ways. So for our second point, we have the change in x is minus 3. So 0 minus 3 is minus 3. And we have the change in y is 4. So minus 8 plus 4 is minus 4. So there we have our second point. Then for our third point, the change in x is minus 3. So minus 3 minus 3 is minus 6. And then the change in y is 4. So minus 4 plus 4 is 0. So there we have our 3 points. 0 minus 8, minus 3 minus 4, minus 6, 0. So here in GeoGebra, you can see we have the function y is equal to minus 4 divided by 3x minus 8. So you can see here we have the point 0 minus 8. I'm just going to get a pen. So here you can see, so our change in y is 4 and our change in x is minus 3. So because the change in y is positive, we move up. So the change in y is 4, so we move up 1, 2, 3, 4. Then because the change in x is negative, we move to the left, so that we move to the left 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. And there we have d, which is minus 3 minus 4. Minus 3 minus 4. Then for our second, so that's minus 3. Then again, for our final point, because the change in y is positive 4, we move up, so that's up 1, 2, 3, 4. And because the change in x is negative 3, we go to the left 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, and there we have our point E, which is minus 6, 0. And there we have our graph drawn, so you can just connect the dots and remember your arrows. So now for the second way. So as you can see, m is equal to 4 divided by minus 3, but 4 divided by minus 3 is equal to minus 4 divided by 3. So what we can say is the change in y is equal to minus 4, and the change in x is equal to 3. Then, like above, we still use the point 0 minus 8, but now the change in x is 3, so we have the point 3. Then the change in y is minus 4, so minus 8 minus 4 is minus 12. And then for our final point, the change in x is still 3, so 3 plus 6, or 3 plus 3, sorry, is equal to 6. And then minus 12 minus 4 is equal to minus 60. So here we have our 3 points. So remember, we have our point here, 0 minus 8, and because the change in y is negative 4, we move down 4 points. So from 0 minus 8 we move down 1, 2, 3, 4, and because the change in x is positive 3, we move to the right 3, so you move 1, 2, 3, and there's our point. You can see A, which is 3 minus 12, as is what we worked out here, 3 minus 12. Then for our final point, so that's equal to 3. So now for our final point, because the change in y is negative 4, we move down 4 points, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And because the change in x is positive 3, we move to the right 3, so 1, 2, 3. And there's our point B. You can see is 6 minus 16, as we worked out here, 6 minus 16. So that's just 2 ways you can draw this graph. You can choose any one. Remember, you only need 3 points to draw this graph, so you can choose any one of these. It doesn't matter where the negative sign goes. So let's go to the second graph. So you can see here we have the graph y is equal to 6 divided by minus 8x plus 6. So here you can see m is equal to 6 divided by minus 8. So m is less than 0. So you know we'll have a negative gradient. And then you can also see c is positive, so c is equal to 6, c greater than 0, so we know that this linear function will cut the y-axis where y is positive. So we need 1 point, so the easiest one is 0, 6, 0c, because that will always be on the linear function. Now we take m, that we also need, and you can see here the change in y is equal to 6, and the change in x is equal to minus 8. So now to get our second point, we say, okay, the change in x is minus 8, so 0 minus 8 is minus 8, and the change in y is 6, so 6 plus 6 is 12. Then for our final point, we say the change in x is minus 8, so minus 8 minus 8 is minus 16, and then the change in y is 6, so 12 plus 6 is 18. So there we have our 3 points, 0, 6, minus 8, 12, and minus 16, 18. So we go to our second graph. Here you can see its y is equal to 6 divided by minus 8x plus 6. So now we can begin. So here we have the point 0, 6. That's our y-intercept. So now you can see that the change in y is 6 and the change in x is minus 8. So because we have a positive change in y, we're going to move up, and because we have a negative change in x, we're going to move to the left. So the change in y is 6, so we're moving up 6 points, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there by the 12. And then the change in x is minus 8, so we move 8 units to the left. So that is, just let me move the graph. So that is from the 12, just remember it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there you can see is the point minus 8, 12. So that is 6 minus 8. And then again from here we move up 6 points because the change in y is positive 6. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Five, 6, and then to move to the to the left, because it's a negative change in x, so we go to the left 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there we have the point B, which is minus 16, 18, as we worked out here. But remember that 6 divided by minus 8 is equal to minus 6 divided by 8. So what we can say is the change in y is equal to minus 6, and the change in x is equal to 8. Then using our point 0, 6, that's 0c, we can say the change in x is 8, so 0 plus 8 is 8, and the change in y is minus 6, so 6 minus 6 is 0. Then for our final point, we say the change in x is 8, so 8 plus 8 is 16, and then the change in y is negative 6, so 0 minus 6 is minus 6. So there we have our 3 alternative points, 0, 6, 8, 0, and 16 minus 6. So here you can see is the point 0, 6, and because the change in y is negative, we're going to move down, and because the change in x is positive, we're going to move to the right. So the change in y is negative, so we're moving down, so because it's negative 6, so we move down 6 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the change in x is positive 8, so we move to the left, to the right, positive 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the point there, D. So you can see D is 8, 0, as we worked out here, 8, 0. So that is minus 6 and 8. Now let me, for our final point, now you can see it, the change in y is negative 6, so we go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the change in x is positive 8, so we go to the right 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there is E. So you can see E is 16 minus 6. So you can see here, that's the point that we worked out, 16 minus 6. And here our graph is drawn. So remember, you only have to use 1 because you only need 3 points to draw the graph. So you can either use, this first one here, where you use m as equal to 6 divided by minus 8, or you can use m as equal to minus 6 divided by 8. So just any one of those will work, and you can use any one. I would just to make it easier, just use it as it's written in the exam or a test. So if they put the minus 4 divided by 3, I would use the change in y as minus 4 and the change in x is 3. And then, or if they put it in the exam as 6 divided by minus 8, I'll take the change in y as positive 6 and the change in x as negative 8. But you can also turn it around. You must just maybe clearly say, okay, well, I'm taking m as equal to 4 divided by minus 3, or I'm taking m as equal to minus 6 divided by 8. Just tell the person that marking your paper that you're using a different m. So just clearly state the m you are using. And I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching, and please consider subscribing.